Bitcoin pulled back to our target from yesterday's video, just under 60,000 bucks, and now bouncing back up just above 60,000 for the end of the weekly closure. But while all of this is happening, the death cross has happened, the derp cross has happened, and everyone is extremely scared as of right now. Bitcoin going back down to 34,000 bucks. That is surely the next target, right? And that is going to be the topic of today's video. So let's just actually jump right on this one. And yes, indeed, Bitcoin is about to experience its first death cross since last summer, actually, which this one worked out quite well, as you can see. But yes, the red moving average represents the 50 simple moving average, and the white moving average represents the 200 simple moving average. And as you can see, barring any sort of like ungodly price action to the upside for today in the next 15 hours and 27 minutes, it indeed will death cross, which I would offer up a few sort of explanations for this. So first and foremost, when you do have a long trending move, typically the first cross in any direction is likely a fake out. We saw this actually last year right here. And that one was obviously a tremendously good buy price actually for the long term. And I believe that we're kind of seeing the same thing over here. We saw it again in 2021 segment. Bitcoin has a tremendously powerful move to the upside after the Rona dump over here. And you get your first death cross, boom, down, back up, and a new high. And then the real one happens after that. And we actually saw something very similar back on over in 2017 here as well. So with all of that said, first and foremost, I am actually not a big fan of the death cross or golden cross for that matter. Yes, they do kind of speak towards the long term, and yes, when they do cross, it can set in, very, very long-term trends, of course. But this is going to, one, set in a major pivot for Bitcoin right at basically where the 200 simple moving average is, which is 62,000 bucks, pretty much on the dot as of today. And then two, one thing that I'd really highlight here is something that I've not seen really anyone else speak about, but it is this. Here's CME's chart, and CME's chart is actually in no way, shape, or form close to getting a death cross as of right now. It is in a consolidationary period between the 50 and the 200 simple, and I typically look to CME to produce the more high fidelity, high quality signals just in general. And as you can see, when Bitcoin did have that last death cross last year, that did not happen on CME. It kind of gets rid of a lot of those noisy behaviors. Yes, it did test into it, sure, yeah, but that was again a phenomenal area to be getting in. And of course, last bear market when Bitcoin did experience the death cross over here, that was the real one. The first one, as you saw in 2021, again, a great buy-in point, kind of similar to what you saw on spot price action back in last year of October of 2023. So, as long as CME is not showing it, I do not look at it as anything really concerning. Of course, it is generally concerning when you got these, major moving average crosses, but here's the thing. A perfect death cross, or a perfect golden cross for that matter, are going to look one and the same. You want to see price action actually kind of in the way that it is right now, where it's bunching up around those major moving averages, and then you want to see a strong rejection plus follow through nearly immediately from there on the next move. So while I do think that Bitcoin could very easily pull back here, over the next day or two, maybe to open up next week, Bitcoin would really need to come back down below, let's say 55,000 bucks for me to say, hey, not only is this death cross legitimate, but it is going to get played, and it's going to get played out for a while. And that's probably the end of your cycle, honestly. And yeah, at that point, the people who are calling for, I guess, mid 40s or mid 30s for that matter, they have a legitimate thing on their hands for sure. But in this case, it's going to be a long next week to go. And if Bitcoin can even just close back above the 200 simple here at 62,000 bucks, I do think that the case for this gets greatly diminished. And of course, when we go over to CME, it's not even a topic of conversation at all. It is a consolidationary-ish period, but the consolidation is between the 50 simple and the 200 simple, and anything between there doesn't really mean fuck all, to be honest with you, as far as the overall trajectory, if you're looking at just general movements, which for reference, the 50 simple moving average on CME is basically around the high of this week, just around about 63,500 bucks, and the 200 simple to the downside is crawling up almost at 56,000 bucks as of right now. So you can look at those as two major pivots for CME as well. Bitcoin starts to close above or below one of those major ones, you're probably going to see the follow through in that direction. But until then, it's really not much, and I expect that we're not going to be seeing much, to be honest with you, in the very, very short term here as well. Why do I say that? If we go over here to the 5-day time frame, we can see that the 5-day time frame Does seem to be showing some signals here, at least as of right now, with 2.5 days left until closure, that it will likely regain its footing on that 5-day median, which is currently at 59,760. That was essentially where Bitcoin bounced yesterday. As we said, a pullback yesterday was likely, but yesterday's pullback was in no way, shape, or form like a reversal call. It's just, pullback. Probably close the day above 60,000 bucks. That's what's happened. And then now, it's probably more sideways, especially for Saturday, which is the lowest volatility day, statistically speaking, for Bitcoin. But here's the thing. If Bitcoin does start to close the 5-day back above the median here for the HPDR, I would look at that as another signal that Bitcoin is likely going to explore the top side of this range before anything else. You probably see a move somewhere around 64 to 65,000 bucks. Still spent this time. I still suspect that overall, we're waiting for this market at least until September, and I think that could be even closer to like the beginning of October for like any real major move and major potential breakout to the upside or downside for that matter. Although if it is going to be down, you probably would be expecting it to happen a little bit sooner rather than later. Perhaps like around the start of September if that's going to happen. But still, it's likely going to be a bit of a waiting game here. Anyways, yes. So we spoke about that. Let me get into the next chart. As we go, or actually, should we follow up on the setup from yesterday's video? Where do I have it right here? Yeah, the setup that we had on yesterday's video still active, still available. The 12-hour setup as well, and that one actually will almost undoubtedly close in profit, as it is still a few $1,000 in profit with the 12 simple, or sorry, with the 5 exponential still moving up. But the daily time frame, we can see it's just riding the 5 exponential as of right now. But there is something actually really compelling about this just from the strategy statistics, and that is this. When we do get failures using this strategy, the 5 exponential strategy, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, just go back to yesterday's video. There'll be a little bit more in depth with that. We can see that the average amount of bars in losing trades, okay, you can't see it because it's all the way down here on my screen. My face is already clogging it up as well. But the average amount of bars in losing trades is 2. And we're actually on day number 2 right now. So if this one is going to fail, we probably do expect it to come back down below that 5 exponential by the closure tonight. By contrast, the average amount of bars in winning trades is 10. So the longer that this one kind of trades without coming back down below that 5 exponential and closing below there, which right now is 59,800 on the index, the more and more likely this one is going to be a winner. And if it is going to be a winner, the average return for these trades has been actually close to 20%, which would put Bitcoin basically on a retest to prior highs and maybe even slightly new highs. But that could obviously take, that could obviously take a little bit more time, and that would kind of fuck around with my own time analysis, which I do think is kind of unlikely here, to be honest with you. I think this market is going to be sideways for a little bit of time. Anyways, going into traditional markets, just because I think I think things are more obvious in traditional markets generally, and Bitcoin, was on its own fucking thing this week. But traditional markets, it was a lot more easy to call, at least in my opinion, a low on Monday/Tuesday. And in this case, we have several things now that are starting to really mature that do, I think, continue to corroborate that story. So a few things here. First and foremost, usually when you do see these down legs in traditional markets, they come in threes. And we do have this right here. We have that first down leg. This was in like middle of July, small rally into a little bit of a bear flag basically. And then another down leg into the end of July, small bear flag as it tries a little bit of an upside move, still maintaining the overall lower highs, and the downtrend continues from there, basically evolving into the beginning of this week. And there's your third leg. And we typically see things happen in threes, on these really, really nasty downside moves. So at the very least, I do think that this one is going to continue to bounce here, probably boding well for Bitcoin as well. We also do see the double derp extreme right here, which I always like to call out because these are usually the ends of those moves. When you get an extreme read on volatility twice very close to each other, almost always this is like the end of that move, and at the very least you're going to get a counter move here, and in this case that would be an upside move alongside daily stochastic sort of continuing to position itself to the upside as long as Nasdaq's above 17,500, which I expect it definitely closed more than 1,000 points above this past Friday, so not bad right there. And I suspect we're going to continue to see this thing kind of trade sideways and up over this next week, some like this. And then a real decision is probably made closer to like the last week of, or the last couple weeks of August. But I expect that this next week's going to be kind of just chewing up time. still we could see a very easily a retest of 18,000 bucks. Where does that bring Bitcoin down towards? I mean, probably about the same thing as what we saw yesterday, maybe 58,000 bucks. In fact, we go check out the daily HPDR for that. So we'll do that exactly as of right now. You can actually see, I suppose this would also be more on the concerning side as well. We can see thus far rejection at the daily median, which was our target for this bounce, which has been officially hit. It's just, and you do expect, and again, we do expect a pullback there, and that's what we saw yesterday. But for reference here, it could come all the way down to the 50% of restored returns range lows and still not mean all that much. And that is basically at 58,400. So, a big range here between basically that into the upside. You got essentially 62,000 bucks for like the most important level to the upside, that is. So anyways, looking at Bitcoin, looking at traditional markets, whether you're super bullish, super bearish, likely to continue on with the sideways bounces here. Just the real question is, do we get an actual reversal or not? And for traditional markets, it's going to take quite a fair bit. It has to trade back above 19,700. I mean, that's pretty fucking far away right now. That's not going to happen, or I suspect that's not going to happen like this next week. If it's going to happen, maybe around the end of this month, there will be an actual attempt there. But yeah, as far as the bullish side, it would be based off of this. But remember, this setup does have a higher probability to lose than win any given trade. It loses about 2 out of every 3 trades, and the last one was a loss, and the one before that one was a gain, and the last couple ones before that were losses as well. Of course, this is gambler's fallacy right here, but I do like kind of keep tabs on these things, and it gives us just a general sort of bias as far as direction, and then of course returns on those directions as well, which the downside is just as important to know as that as the upside, and that would technically have about a 60% probability to have the negative average return hit, which would be 3%, so let's actually see where that would be for today. Yeah, that actually literally just put us below the 5 exponential. So that actually kind of makes a lot of sense. Interesting. All right. Yeah. I mean, if that one is going to fail, yeah, we probably expect below 59,800 by today's closure. If that happens, then I suppose we can talk about moves back down to, somewhere around the current lows. But I suspect probably not going to see that happen today. I think sideways is going to be the name of the game, and that's going to eventually start to favor the boo laws, just the more that it kind of trades sideways above, especially, let's call it just 60,000 bucks. So a little bit of a long-winded video today for really not all that much, honestly. We got the easy move right here. Now comes the boring part, really. And so I think it's going to be a lot more waiting. And in that case, I am going to sign off. I'm going to be wishing the best bets. It's fucking super rainy here this morning. It's no longer summer in Finland. It's like actually a storm. It was like actually a storm outside when I went out this morning. So it sucks, man. It sucks. But you know what? Soon enough, we get some good, powerful skies, and we have an actual fight now as well, which I'm very, very excited about. But anyways, I'm just talking about my shit. Let's talk about wishing you the best. As always, take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.